And 5 on Your Side is partnering with the Missouri History Museum for an exhibit which showcases St. Louis's gay culture. Here's an inside look at Gateway to Pride.
I hope that when people see it, they think about what had to happen to get us to where we're at today.
Greg Gerhardt is talking about this foam coffin he built during the AIDS crisis of the 1980s. Gerhardt was a member of ACT UP, the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, an international grassroots political group that worked to end the AIDS pandemic.
We used it as a prop in demonstrations, so sometimes 2 people, usually me being one of them, and sometimes Dennis or somebody else, we would carry it over our heads in a demonstration. So again, strong visual, carrying the bodies of the dead away.
The coffin is now one of many artifacts in the Missouri History Museum's Gateway to Pride exhibit.
I want people to realize that LGBTQIA+ people fit into the bigger story of St. Louis, and that you can't really understand the history of this place without understanding the struggles and achievements of LGBTQIA+ people.
Rudy Nickens also lived in St. Louis during the 80s.
A restaurant that served good quality food in a pleasant, congenial atmosphere. I remember that tagline, so that was what we did.
As owner of the co-op collective known as the Sunshine Inn, Nickens says the Central West End in the 70s was a place where gay people were building communities and renovating neighborhoods, investing in properties, and improving the value of places around them.
You know, you can look around St. Louis's history and see, the movement of gay communities, and see, you can see what the Grove is today, what it wasn't before it became the gay hub. It was totally run down. Central West End, also that story. The Loop, also that story. Soulard, also that story. Like Lafayette Square, lots and lots of building community, making the city more vital because of that.
Then came the AIDS crisis of the 1980s. Nickens says that virus may have helped prepare public health officials for another virus decades later.
In the beginning, the person who was responsible for leading the response to COVID, Dr. Fauci, was also in public health at the CDC when the HIV crisis came on, and just like many other people, paid no attention to it. The Reagan administration didn't talk about it, didn't direct resources to it, but for the powerful activism of groups like ACT UP and insisting that CDC and other federal agencies get involved. Dr. Fauci got his training by being the target of the activists of that community.
That brings us back to the work of Gerhardt, who sees his activism and his handiwork in a new light.
So I just never thought it was that important, and the fact that the History Museum gave it a new life for me, and almost a new mindset. Like, it made me realize that the work I did was important, and that this is a piece of history, and that it is worth preserving.